Welcome back. So I first want to say, before I forget this thought, because I didn't write it down, it's really important to have a creative outlet, something that when you're feeling a lot of emotions, especially if they're heavy emotions, you need a way to get it out. So obviously, if you follow me, you know I haven't made a video in a couple weeks. So as all these things are coming up for me, it seems like these videos are kind of my outlet, my release. So when I'm not making them, I feel all of this like in me, on me, ready to get out. It's like, okay, it's building up, it's building up, it's building up. Now it needs to be released. So it doesn't have to be videos for you. It could be writing, poetry. It could be many things, but it could be talking with somebody that you trust, but you definitely have to be getting it out, because I am now noticing what happens when it starts building up. It's very intense, and it makes like overwhelming here, like you're gonna like have to grab your head or something, because it needs to get out. Okay, so that thought is gonna go along with this video, because I've kind of been knowing what I was going to talk about, but it's been very insane for me these past few weeks. I've had a lot going on with my jobs, had a lot going on with my family. I've just had a lot going on, and of course I want to be here for you guys, but I also need to be there for myself, okay? So let's get into it. Let's just dive right in. Eclipse season has been kicking my ass. I don't know about you, but so much has come up for me. And I hope that you're handling these energies with a lot of ease and grace. It's really a trip to the underworld, your shadow. So these are really like loud shadow aspects coming to life, coming to light. They're playing out in your world so that you can see them. So it's fall, and as we know, during fall, we let go of things. This has to do with karmic patterns. It could also be like I'm decluttering my house. If you have been doing your work and this eclipse isn't bringing up intense, crazy old things for you, then maybe it's just getting rid of some things in your house. I don't know how far you are on your journey, but I hope it's easy, because for me it's fucking nuts. Okay. So the shedding of these things can make you feel very vulnerable. Now, one thing I learned about lobsters is that they have, first of all, they can live up to like 300 years, and then they have to keep growing out of their shell, and they actually grow a new shell. So during the time when they shed their old shell, before they grow their new shell, they feel very vulnerable. They can really feel like everything around them because they don't have that protection. So I also think that that's a great metaphor for what happens when you start shedding your patterns, shedding your coping mechanisms. You start to feel very vulnerable. And the things in astrology that are happening point to... Okay, so for this cycle of the eclipse, we're looking at relationship dynamics. We're looking at clearing out karmic energies, releasing old childhood wounds, stored trauma, and also setting boundaries with or taking your power back from people, places, and things that have an imbalanced power over you. So for me, it's been a lot about inner child healing. A lot. It actually started in the form of a lot of anxiety, which I've been telling, like I explained that I've been having this very nervous energy. It's been calming down, but it's still there. So I didn't really felt like it fit into what was going on in my life when it started, but then since I kept feeling it and not dealing with it, then something externally happened in my life that was like, okay, well, I kind of created that with all the anxious feelings I was getting and not dealing with it. So of course I had to see what was up with it. So one morning I was actually being very anxious and nervous, and I started getting flashbacks. So it showed me about my fear of judgment, all these flashbacks about when I was a child. So when I was a child, my mom was an addict, and her own life was a burden on her. So that meant our lives were a burden on her. And like, it was to the point where there was physical abuse happening for like me pointing out like if I had a rash on me or something like that. So I would try to stay out of sight, because then I wouldn't be there to upset her and it wouldn't be bad, which eventually didn't work. So because she would seek out the drama and chaos as the addiction grew. So the reason I'm telling you this is not in any way to blame her. She's better now. But I want you to be able to dive into your own childhood and the things that have gone on, and you can see where and what has come about from that experience. So you can see where you've had pain, you've had trauma that you've stuffed down. And a lot of this for me led to people pleasing. So, and the fear of judgment or rejection. So I began to heal. And as I began to heal, I wanted to fix myself, right? I wanted to mold myself into somebody that people would like, that they would love and respect. And at the beginning, it wasn't about self-love for me. It was about, I want other people to love me, which now is completely opposite, because now it's always about self-love for me. It's like, I have to put myself first, because I know I can't help in the way that I'm supposed to if I'm not feeling rejuvenated and fresh and exactly where I need to be, right? So if I'm not feeling good physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, energetically, then I can't be the beacon of light that I'm supposed to be, that I'm here to be. So when you're a kid, you don't know that it's only about your parents, right? So when you're constantly met with abuse as a child, whether it be the mental, the physical, emotional, or verbal, you start to believe what you're told. Kids don't stop loving their parents. They stop loving themselves. So this also led me to take a look at my parenting, because I'm very loving and supportive of my daughter, and lately as she's growing, I can see where she's overstepping my boundaries, and now my kindness is getting taken for granted. So I realized I had some inner masculine healing to do, because I always hated the idea of like structures, timing, and all of it, but now I can see where it does hold value and stability, and that me being passive was just hurting myself. So I was basically just allowing whatever, not standing up for my needs and what I needed when I needed it. So I was just being very passive. So it's very important to set boundaries, and it doesn't mean that you don't love people. It means you love them so much that you know you need to put yourself first in order to be able to show up as the best version of you. And when you do that, and you're in your authenticity, and that's when you're actually healing the collective. Putting yourself first is the most selfless thing you can do. So my breakthrough these last couple of weeks came with the anxiety, with the crying. It felt like I was chasing my own tail, and I felt myself being cracked open. So they say when your heart cracks open, that's when the light can enter. So I know that when the chaos is happening, there's beauty to be found in it. It's a restructuring, and it reminds me of the Japanese art when you break that vase and then you paint the gold. So you put it back together, and where it's cracked, you paint the gold over it, and it's even more beautiful than it was originally. So I had to sit with myself and my emotions and process them, and look at the people in my life that I felt were taking from me without properly giving in return, so I can set boundaries. And energy exchange and reciprocity is very important. If you're constantly seeking validation and acceptance from someone, they have power over you. This is something that needs to be rebalanced. So Aaron Doughty talks about the narcissist-empath relationship. The empath gives to get, and the narcissist manipulates to get. Either way, they're both attempting to get instead of doing things because it's who they choose to be. So collectively, the energy is causing major breakups among karmic relationships. So this is where I want to get into the heartbreak. There is always an expiration date on karmic relationships. They come in only to teach you something about yourself and who you want to be, but there is an element of payoff to it. You get comfortable. You get attached. So that stops people. That's the area that stops people from leaving these relationships when the contract has ended. A lot of times it has to do with finances, materialism, people not standing up for themselves. So you can enable somebody all day, all night, and by you doing that, they will never change. They will never learn their lessons. They need to grow and become who it is they're meant to be. So you're holding yourself back and you're holding them back, and now you guys are basically stuck on a level that you can't beat, and it's a gross level. So it doesn't feel good. It's chaotic. It's depleting. It's basically like staying in a negative thought pattern, but instead it's externally manifested. So look at what your limiting beliefs are. Do you feel like you can't handle heartbreak? Pain and emotion is one of the best teachers for learning how strong your spirit is and cultivating inner strength. Now, I'm not really a person who has problems with this because I hate when I don't feel good. And when I'm around someone who doesn't make me feel good, I'm going to pick me every single time. And my peace. And I'm going to get out of that situation. So there's a difference between real love and divine love. Karmic attachment. But you won't know that until you experience the difference. So if you were in a childhood situation where you were treated badly and made to feel less than, you will gravitate towards someone who also will do this to you. This is not love. It's called a trauma bond. And being attached to what is not good for you, abandoning yourself, and staying stagnant is literally what society has programmed us to believe what love is. To me, love is I love you unconditionally. There is nobody that you need to be and nothing that you need to do for me to love you. Because I obviously am interested in this person, and then I start getting to know them, and I start really enjoying qualities about them, and then you guys kind of get magnetized together. So the great thing about that is I love you, and you love you, and you love you, and you love me. So like we both love ourselves, and we both put ourselves first. You make the right choices for yourself. And you can also put yourself first. So now I know that you trust your inner compass. You make the right decisions for yourself. Now I trust you. Love is two people mutually coming together to not take anything from each other or anything like that, but being drawn together, seeing, oh, I like this. This is a quality then you get those feelings, they start to develop, and then you say, let's build together. Let's create together. And we can live in our little pocket reality of happiness, joy, and of course, things are going to get hard because it's life, right? That's just how it is. But we choose to learn and grow together because we're both committed to our growth. This is divine love and right relationship. So let's talk about actually healing the heartbreak. You may have an old one that you stuffed down from many, many years ago that you have to go back into and look at those memories and understand, A, that you're not that person anymore. Then you look at your actions and you look at their actions. You identify the toxicity, see what you would have done different and what you would do differently now, and you can implement those into your new experiences. You also may have to cry it out and release your pent emotions out of your body. And if it's a new relationship that you're ending, same thing. Take time. Do cord cutting rituals, especially if it's a new one, because it can create a cord, a karmic cord. So like, if you have sexual relationships with a karmic, then you will create a cord from both of your sacral chakras, and it will be connected, and they can pull on it at any single time. They can siphon your energy, your sexual energy, your creative energy. You can feel empty, you can feel emotionally manipulated, and you can have lack of inspiration. So cord cutting is super important. We must also know, you must also take responsibility for your actions in this relationship and all relationships, because anything that happened, you have consciously or subconsciously agreed to. You are not a victim. This reality is so that we learn. We don't have to be like, woe is me, I'm a victim, pity party. That's not what this is about. We're going to take our power back. We're going to set boundaries, forgive others, forgive yourselves, cry it out, decide who you want to be. Do the cord cutting. Take action steps to better your situation. The fact of the matter is you cannot control others, nor should you want to. We all have a journey and a purpose to walk, and it's time to step into that sacred walk, to shine the light onto the darkest parts of you. So I'm not saying that it's not going to hurt, but that hurt is like fertile ground for you rising up into your power, and it's beautiful and it's amazing. And that's all I'm going to have for today. So I hope it helps. I'll see you in the next one.